University. I found her. Ma'am. Oh. I need EMS immediately to the location where the phone pings. Ma'am. She's down, she's not breathing. Potentially been attacked. Starting CPR now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I'm not getting any pulse. She's stiff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. That's why she was attacked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Take over. Looks like blunt force trauma to the head. Her shirt has been removed above her breast. Got it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24. Far side, if you look at the ping, we're exactly where that phone was pinging at. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I'm going to stop it right here at 12:40 for the record, states 15. Let me ask you a few questions, Sergeant Maxwell. First and foremost, we hear a whistle. Is that you whistling?
Yes, ma'am. It's my patrol whistle. We always keep it on our uniforms.
Why are you whistling?
To help other responding units figure out where we're at.
You, we heard you describe it, but tell us for the record, when you observed Laken Riley, first of all, how would you describe her clothing?
So it appeared that her clothing, at least her shirt, had been removed to up above her breast. It did not look as if something had like unintentionally happened, as if somebody falls and has a wardrobe malfunction. It looked more intentional, as if somebody had attempted to either remove her top or maybe had used it to drag her.
At some point, did you all have to remove her top?
Yes.
In order to continue CPR?
Yes.
How did y'all do that?
We have, at least some of us carry some shears on us, trauma shears, so we use those to cut off her clothing.
And who is that other officer that we now see in the video with you?
That's Corporal Mason Bridges.
Okay. And the two of you are, I see, were working together with CPR?
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point, does EMS arrive?
Yes, they do. Okay.
And at some point, do you all have to physically move her body?
Yes, I believe it was before EMS showed up. It was when Athens-Clarke County Fire showed up. Okay. And they suggested that because she was laying in a more of a divot, that it would be better to move her to the side for better compressions.
Okay, and I could see you and Officer Bridges there. Were either one of you wearing gloves?
No.
Okay.
You okay? Need a switch? Okay. Okay, let me know.
And when you first saw her, was she covered by anything, or How would you describe how she was when you first saw her body?
Yes, she was laying slightly on her side, and it appeared that she had some leaves and other vegetation that had been placed on top of her.
Tell them to go to the lake and take a next left. Take a left at the lake and then take another. Go to the left, take a left, just keep going left. I'm blowing my whistle, so you should be able to hear it.
Try to fast forward a little bit. I'm at 17:42.
I'll keep going. You cut it? Keep going. Okay. CPR. Dude, head trauma? Yeah, it looks like right there.
Call for help. Remove pads from package in back of unit. Apply pad to patient's bare chest as shown. Apply pad to patient's bare chest as shown. Apply pad to patient's bare chest as shown. Apply pad.
Push it that way a little bit. Pull it that way just a little bit. We're just applying pads now.
Apply pad to patient's bare chest as shown. Analyzing interrupted. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient.
Yeah, run south where I ran in. About 45 degree angle to your left.
To touch the patient. CPR now.
Hey, I need you to scream for those officers. Hey, you know where we are. Walk over there and get them over here. Okay, you're okay. You're okay.
For 1 minute 45 seconds.
What do you mean you want to cut her shirt? Go ahead, try to get it off.
That person that you all were just talking to at 17:44, 12:44, who was that person?
That was one of our interns.
So she is with y'all.
Yes, she was riding with Corporal Bridges that day.
Continue. Continue for 1 minute 30 seconds. Continue.
So why is it that you all had to cut the clothes as we just saw as opposed to just taking the clothes off?
I believe when Sergeant Epps arrived, he attempted to take them off, but they were really tight, bound up, basically, to make it so it was very difficult, as well as some of her extremities were starting to become stiff.
Continue for 1 minute 15 seconds.
You got the wire. You got the wire. Look at that.
Continue. Continue for 1 minute.
There you go.
Continue.
Is that everything?
Continue for
Sergeant Epps, did you notice anything about Laken Riley's clothes beneath her waist?
Yes, so she had on a pair of running leggings, and it looked like in the front side, her underwear was bunched up towards the top end.
Was her navel exposed?
Yes.
45
That's what
seconds.
we got. Come on. Get another pad. Get another pad. Get another pad. Get another pad.
Continue. Continue for 30 seconds.
And can we see that now in the underwear as you described it at 17:45 for the record, 12:45?
Yes, in this direct frame, I think my cord from my whistle is covering it, but any frame to the side should be able to.
Okay, you see her underwear in that? Please point to it for the court.
Down here, it's kind of peachish or tan in color.
Sticking out of the pants in the middle of the frame? Yes? Is it in the middle of the frame
Oh,
for
yes,
the record?
yes.
Thank you. And that's at 17:45 for the record.
Continue. Continue for 15 seconds. Analyzing interrupted. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing.
I'm going to move a little bit until I'm going to fast forward a little bit until you move her. And so for the record, I'm going to go about 3 minutes ahead. And since I am jumping ahead, instead of playing all 3 minutes, could you just tell the court what happens in the 3 minutes before y'all move her?
So we continue to rotate back and forth between AED instructions and giving compressions. During this time, Athens-Clarke County Fire Department will have shown up as well.
Who is the other officer that has arrived from your police department that we see?
So Sergeant Epps will have been that officer.
So at this point, then it's you, Sergeant Epps, and Officer Bridges.
Yes.
Now, do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient.
I'm at 17:48 for the record.
Analyzing. No shock advised. It is safe to touch the patient.
Negative.
Begin CPR now.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
We've been
7,
for a while now.
10,
We've had nothing red on this.
16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29,
Continue
30.
for 1 minute 45 seconds.
Who found her?
I did.
Continue. Continue for 1 minute.
Yeah, we got pads on her. 3 times in check, no shock advised.
Okay, hey, let's pull her up onto some flat ground.
All right.
Get better compression.
Continue for 1 minute.
1, 2,
50.
3.
Get that.
Pads on her.
We got, hey,
Continue.
next to her off.
Continue for 1 minute.
Taking over CPR.
Do we have somebody with crime scene tape? We need to start going around here.
Yeah, go ahead and get a BBM.
Let me grab those back.
And so now at 17:50 or 12:50, is that when fire took over CPR?
Yes.
Is this location where you found Laken Riley's body in Athens, Clarke County, Georgia?
Yes, it is.
After fire takes over CPR, what do you do?
So at that point, I suspected that this wasn't an accident based on the circumstances in which she had been found. So I started communicating with Sergeant Epps that we need to begin setting up a perimeter to preserve any evidence because I believe the crime had occurred.
What perimeter did y'all set up?
So we set up a pretty wide perimeter from that location outwards. I'm not sure exactly how far it was, but I myself went up to the more northern side of that main trail that I had walked in on, and I stood there until I was relieved.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
And I'm gonna just take out states 15 and leave out 9 quarter. How long did you stay on the scene that day?
I was there, let's see, in my narrative, I think I had until about 3:20 in the afternoon when I was relieved by another officer at that perimeter, but I was on scene for at least a couple more hours.
That's all I have, Your Honor. I'll pass this.
No questions, ma'am. Thank you, Judge.
Are you gonna replay any of this?
I'm not going to.
Okay, I'm gonna, if somebody will let them know, if anybody wants to come back in, they can do that, I'll leave that up to them.
You don't have to. Thank you, Judge. And Judge, I'll try to keep this brief. Is it Sergeant Maxwell?
Yes, it is.
Okay. When you arrived on the scene, Miss Riley's pants were on, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. They were pulled up above the waist?
To the waist, yes.
Okay. And the only thing that you noticed about her pants was that her underwear was up above her waistline, is that right?
Correct. It was bunched up in the front.
Okay. And that her shirt was pulled up, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And the way that I heard you describe it on direct was that it could have been removed, is that right, by someone?
It appeared to me as if somebody may have attempted to remove it. That's where it had been lifted up.
Or had used it to drag her, is that right?
Potentially.
Okay. Did you notice any blood stains around her ankles?
I did not.
Okay. Did you notice any injuries to her ankles?
I did not.
Okay. Could this shirt have also come up if she were dragged by her feet?
I would have to speculate, potentially.
Okay. You don't have any personal knowledge of how the shirt was pulled up, is that right?
No.
Okay. And how far off of the trail would you say she was when you found her?
At least 50 feet.
Okay. And it wasn't obvious when you started looking for her, it wasn't obvious where she was?
No.
Okay. Did you notice anything about the area surrounding her that looked disturbed in any way, or is that just not something that you were necessarily looking for at the time?
Exactly. It wasn't something I was looking for at the time.
Okay. That's all the questions I have, Judge.
Sergeant Maxwell, when you were conducting CPR on Laken Riley, did you actually take the time to study the number of layers of clothing that she had on her top?
I didn't specifically do that, no.
Do you know how many layers she had on?
I think maybe 3.
And you said her pants were pulled up above the waist. I'm going to have to ask you, what do you mean by waist?
I guess waistline would be up above more like the hips, but below the navel.
Okay, so was her navel exposed?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Can you be excused?
Yes, sir.
Any objection? You're excused.
Thank you, sir.
Can you give me an estimate of how long your next witness will take?
She will be like the first two, because it's Connolly Huth, so maybe 20 minutes.
Let's take one.
Yes, sir.
Take her. Who is that?
Connolly Huth?
Connolly Luke?
Huth. H-U-T.
Huth. I see it now.
Huth. Connolly. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you will give today in the matter of the state of Georgia versus Jose Ibarra will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please take a seat. Spell your first and last name, please.
My name is Connolly Huth, C-O-N-N-O-L-L-Y-H-U-T-H.
How old are you?
I'm 22.
What do you do for a living?
I'm currently unemployed. I graduated in May and I'm waiting to go to grad school.
Where are you going to go to grad school?
Mercer.
What are you going to study?
I'm going to get my master's in mental health counseling.
You graduated from where in May?
The University of Georgia.
What's your undergrad degree in?
Psychology.
Did you, when you attended the University of Georgia, have roommates?
I did.
Can you tell the court where did you live?
I lived at 1686 Millage Avenue.
Who lived there with you?
Laken Riley, Sophia Magana, and Lily Steiner.
How long have you known Laken Riley?
Known her for over 2.5 years.
Where did y'all meet?
We met, well, she came over to my house to see the house, so in the house.
Would you and Laken run together?
Yes.
How often?
It depended on her nursing schedule, anywhere from 3 to 6 times a week.
Tell us what kind of runner Laken was.
She was a good runner. She could run for a long time, far distances. She was pretty fast as well.
And would y'all, when you would run together, well, first of all, did you run races together?
Yes.
Approximately how many?
1.
And are you, which one was that?
The half in 2023.
Is that October 2023?
Yes.
And would you train together for that race?
Yes.
And could you tell us when Laken ran and you ran with her, are you familiar with her running habits?
Yes, I am.
What are her running habits?
She, like clothing wise?
Clothing and what she would do on her runs.
Well, she always had a watch on. It was either an Apple Watch or she recently got a Garmin watch. She had different types of headphones she would wear, but she would listen to music while running. Sometimes when she was alone, she would call her mom. And she also had called her mom with me before on runs. She'd wear tight clothing usually.
And why tight clothing?
It's kind of annoying when you have loose clothing on when you're running and it's flopping around, as well as like compression.
How many times have you seen Laken Riley in running clothes?
Many times.
And of all the times that you've seen her running, does she wear running tights?
Yes.
And how often does she wear running tights?
Almost every time.
And running tights, and when I say running tights, can you describe what is meant by running tights?
They're like leggings, so they essentially like stick to your skin.
And when Laken would wear her running tights, were her tights above her belly button, or would she wear them below her belly button?
Always above.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm handing you 2 exhibits. One is State's Exhibit 16. I'm going to ask you to recognize the person in State's Exhibit 16.
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
That's Laken.
And does that fairly and accurately depict Laken in life?
Yes.
And does it also show the manner in which she would wear her running tights?
Yes.
State would move to admit State's Exhibit 16.
No objection. 16 submitted.
State's Exhibit 17, have you seen 17?
Yes.
And what is State's Exhibit 17?
It's a video that I took of Laken doing jumping jacks.
Okay, and does it also depict how she would wear her running tights?
Yes.
And the state would move to admit 17 and request permission to publish.
No objection. 17 submitted and the total 16 and 17.
Let's start with 17 since we've toggled over already. I just published State's Exhibit 17 for the record. Is that the manner in which Laken would wear her running tights above her belly button?
Yes.
And did you ever see, in the times that you were with Laken, did you ever see her running with her underwear on the outside of her
No.
running tights?
No.
Would you toggle over, please, Your Honor? State's Exhibit 16, tell us what that depicts. When was that picture taken?
October of 2023.
Is that your half marathon that y'all
Yes.
ran? Okay, and in that photograph, do you see Laken's tights?
Yes, I do.
And again, could you describe, is her belly button showing or not?
It is not.
And is that consistent with what you would see every time she ran, that her belly button was not shown?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
I want to ask you, Ms. Huth, about February 22nd, 2024. Tell us about your morning that day.
I woke up, I had 2 classes that day, so I woke up at 7:45. I quickly got ready and I had class at 9:35 and 11:10 in Caldwell Hall in the same room. As I got ready, I walked out to our living room and kitchen. Laken was sitting there with her iPad, and she was taking notes and doing her homework and watching Netflix. And for 45 minutes, we sat and talked about our plans for the weekend and what we were going to do later that night. And I left for class at around 8:45 to get on the bus.
When you left for class, was Laken still in the house?
Yes.
And at some point when you were in class, did you become concerned about Laken?
Yes.
Tell us why and what happened.
At one point, Lily had sent a text asking if Laken was okay, and I was in class and I just figured she was on the phone with her mom and walking around because that was standard, and I didn't think anything of it. And then at around 11:15, 11:20, I got a call from Lauren, Laken's sister, and I didn't answer because I was in class. And then she called me again, and I didn't answer. And I texted her and I said, like, I'm in class. What's up? And she asked me if I'd heard from Laken, and I immediately went into panic. I stepped outside of the class and I called Lauren back and said I'll try to figure out what's going on. So I then called my 2 roommates, and both of their phones went immediately to voicemail. And then I tried calling Laken, and her phone rang and then went to voicemail.
Why were you panicked immediately?
Just because she would run for a long time, but I knew she had class that day, and I knew that she wasn't one to be late or off schedule.
All right. So at some point, did you meet up with the University of Georgia police officers?
I did.
When did you do that, and where were you?
I had Sophia pick me up from my class around 12:15, 12:20, and she took me straight to the intramural fields to meet with the officer and Lily.
How long did y'all stay there that day?
6 hours, 7 hours.
When was your last communication with Laken Riley?
9 o'clock.
At what day?
On February 22nd.
Okay. And did you ever hear from her after that?
No, I did not.
Okay. May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
That's it. All I have. I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Huth, I'm going to try and keep this short, but let me know if you need a minute, okay? You described Laken Riley as a good runner.
Yes.
How long was a typical run for her?
6 miles,
And how long did that take her?
58 to an hour.
Okay. If the two of you were sprinting, do you know what her fastest time could be for a mile?
8 minutes.
Besides the clothes and the phone, did she often have anything else with her when she went on runs?
Her AirPods.
Okay. Did she ever carry a house key with her?
Yes.
And where was the house key kept?
Depends. Sometimes her leggings have pockets. They'd be in the pockets, or in her waistband. There are pockets in some Lululemon brand leggings, so in there, or in her jacket pocket.
Okay. And I believe you told officers that it was typical for her to wear 3 layers of clothing on a run. Is that right?
Sometimes, yes.
And sometimes when she was getting heated on runs, she would remove the middle layer, the shirt in between the jacket and the bra.
No.
You didn't tell the officers that she would ever remove a layer of clothing?
Between where?
She would sometimes remove her shirt when she got heated on runs.
She would take her shirt off and have her sports bra on, but it was only when I was with her.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Just briefly, did you see the Ring doorbell footage of February 22nd at 9 a.m., 9:03 a.m. when Laken left the house?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the clothing that she was wearing that day?
Yes.
What was the clothing she was wearing?
She was wearing Lululemon black leggings, a Lululemon zip-up jacket, that was black, and her white hokas.
And hokas are what, for the record?
Tennis shoes.
Okay. And that Lululemon black jacket, you've seen Laken wear that one before?
Yes.
And would you describe that as a tight jacket or a loose jacket?
Tight.
And how tight is that jacket?
Very tight.
That's all I have now.
No.
You should be excused.
Yes, sir.
Let me go down, ma'am. This time we'll break for lunch. We're in recess till 1 o'clock.
Raise your right hand, please, ma'am. Do you swear from the testimony you will give today in the matter of the state of Georgia versus Jose Ibarra will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please take a seat. Spell your first and last name, please.
Daniela Stewart, DaniellaStuart.
Where are you employed?
The Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
How long have you worked for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation?
Approximately 8 years.
What are your current duties and assignments there?
I'm currently assigned to my office as a crime scene specialist, but my title is special agent. I use them interchangeably.
What is a crime scene specialist and which office do you work out of?
A crime scene specialist is a special agent that is assigned specifically to work crime scenes. So we specialize in just crime scenes. And I'm assigned to the Regional 11 Athens office.
Tell the court a little bit about your training and your education that qualifies you for your job.
So I have over 2,000 hours of combined law enforcement and crime scene training, and specifically I'm a graduate of the National Forensic Academy, which is a 10-week academy in Tennessee where we learn about latent print processing, blood stain, shooting reconstruction, advanced processing techniques for crime scene. I am also a state certified crime scene technician, so I've taken the 7 classes that the state requires for that certification. I also have additional training through my agency. We go through a 10-week, well, it's now 13 or 14-week academy where we have a week of crime scene training there as well. And as a crime scene specialist at the GBI, we continually train. I'm also the president of the Georgia IAI, which is an association in Georgia for additional training in forensics and crime scene processing. So we have yearly meetings that we attend for training and also conferences.
How many crime scenes have you had the opportunity to process over your career at the GBI?
So over my career at the GBI, I've probably processed close to, I want to say maybe between 80 to 100. Prior to working for the GBI, I worked for the Atlanta Police Department as a civilian crime scene technician. So there I responded to over 500 crime scene calls. I also worked for the DeKalb County Police Department in a civilian capacity in crime scene for a little while, where I also responded to major crimes.
Do you have some special training in photography as well?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell the court about that?
So in the National Forensic Academy, we have a week of photography there as well. And in the GBI Special Agent Academy, we also do photography in Crime Scene Week as well. And then for the GBI, we train additionally in photography. So this year alone, we've had photography training.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm handing you a few items of evidence so I don't have to keep coming back up here at one time. The first one is states 142, and I apologize because we have pre-marked a lot of evidence, so I don't like to go out of order, but this one will be out of order. Do you recognize states 142?
I do.
And there will be 18 through 141, just so that everybody knows. What is states 142?
This is a copy of my CV.
And that means your qualifications that you went over with us?
Correct.
State would move to admit states 142.
Objection.
142 is admitted.
The next fact I am going to hand you is going to be a series of photographs and a crime scene sketch. The photographs are marked for the record as states exhibits 18 through 84. And the crime scene sketch is states exhibit 85. So first, starting with the photographs, I'm going to hand you states exhibits 18 through 84. I ask that you take a look at those, and I ask you a series of questions. Do you recognize 18 through 84?
I do.
What are they?
They are crime scene photographs that I took.
And are they the crime scene photographs that you took on the 22nd day of February 2024?
Yes.
And do they fairly and accurately depict the scene as you saw it on that day?
Yes, they do.
State would move to admit states 18 through 84.
No objection.
They're admitted.
States Exhibit 85, is that still in front of you?
Yes.
Can you tell us what that is?
This is one of my crime scene sketches.
And is that a fair and accurate copy of your crime scene sketch? And does that sketch adequately and accurately represent the scene as you saw it on that day?
Correct.
State would move to admit States Exhibit 85.
No objection.
85 is admitted.
And before we move on to, I want to ask you a little bit, I know it's in your CV, but I would like you to tell the court a little bit about your training in latent print processing. What is latent print? What is the processing of it? And how were you trained in that regard?
So as far as latent print processing, again, at the National Forensic Academy, we have a week of latent print processing there as well, which includes latent print photography. I also teach classes, crime scene classes for the University of Tennessee, and I go back and I actually teach at the Forensic Academy, so I've taught the latent print week there as well. And then with the GBI, we have additional training in latent print processing.
How many items of evidence have you had the opportunity to process for the presence of latent prints over your career?
Oh gosh, a lot. When I worked in the Atlanta field office, we processed a lot of vehicles, a lot of cartridge cases. Like I said, I responded to over 500 crime scene calls there, so maybe about half of those probably involved latent print processing.
And Your Honor, at this time, the state would tender Special Agent Stewart as an expert in the fields of crime scene photography, latent print processing, and crime scene processing.
No objection.
Should be allowed to testify as an expert in those areas.
May I approach to retrieve the photographs?
Yes.
Could you start first by telling the court what date and time did you get a call to process a scene on the University of Georgia's campus?
So it was February 22nd, and I responded to the crime scene at approximately 2 p.m., so I would have gotten the call maybe an hour prior to that.
Tell the court what the crime scene was like when you got there.
When I got there, one of the things that I noticed was it was very windy out. There was a lot of leaf coverage in the area. It was a wooded area.
What was the temperature like?
It was approximately 67 degrees.
Was this an outdoor scene?
It was an outdoor scene.
Can you tell the court what are the challenges particular to outdoor scenes?
So with an outdoor scene, obviously you're dealing with weather conditions, basically Mother Nature could be directly impacting you, whereas when you have an indoor scene, even if it's raining outside, it's not really going to impact how you work.
And did you find any challenges with this particular scene due to the foliage? Yeah,
so like I stated previously, the leaf coverage was kind of thick in the area that was off of the trail, and it was also very windy.
And so how did that impact you and your ability to process the scene?
Well, when it's windy, obviously things are not going to stay where they normally are or where they were previously. So you kind of have to take that into account when you're looking for evidence.
Did you process the scene by yourself or with others?
With other people.
And tell us a little bit about that process in this particular case.
So how our agency works is we are a request-only agency, which means that an agency has to request us for assistance. That may mean us taking over the entire case. That may mean us just working the crime scene. That may mean us just doing a few investigative acts for them. So in this case, the University of Georgia Police Department requested for me to help process the crime scene.
Who did you work with specifically with the University of Georgia Police Department in processing the scene?
That would be now Lieutenant Saunders.
And how did y'all go about processing the scene? Was it together? Was it separate? Tell us about that process here.
Yeah, so what we decided was because they were going to be the primary agency on the case, I took photographs for them. That was what they requested. And then I assisted with collecting the evidence, but Detective Saunders took possession of all of the evidence.
And when you said you assisted in collecting it, were you literally standing side by side as y'all were collecting it together?
Yes.
I want to start with an overall of the crime scene in your crime scene sketch, which would technically be State's Exhibit 85. And for ease, Your Honor, we have a blown-up version of State's Exhibit 85, which I think would be easier for the witness to testify to and would not have to leave the stand for that. So may I approach the witness?
Yes.
I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 143. Do you recognize that?
I do.
What is it?
It is a blown up copy of my crime scene sketch.
So is State's 143 just a blow-up copy of State's 85?
Correct.
And would using State's 143 aid you in your testimony today before this judge to explain the crime scene?
Yes, it would.
State would move to admit 143 for demonstrative purposes only.
I have objection, Judge.
Submitted for that purpose.
And may I publish it using the easel here if it will stay?
Yes.
Let's see. No, all right. Can you turn it and then I'll put it first. Get the leg in. Yeah, so we can clip it to that board. The easel doesn't have feet, so we are going to try to clip it. We need a bigger clip. Thank you. Thank you. One bigger one? So we can clip it on both sides. Thank you. So having clipped State's Exhibit 143 to the easel, I want to make sure that defense counsel can see and can the court see. Thank you. I want to start talking to you about your photos. How many evidence markers did you have on this scene, and what is the significance of the evidence markers?
I used 8 evidence markers.
And did you label the items of evidence by number?
Yes.
And just before we get started, tell the court, what is evidence item number 1 that you collected or you assigned number 1?
The AirPod.
Okay. And evidence item 2?
Evidence item 2 was a blood-stained rock.
Evidence item 3?
A blood-stained rock.
Evidence item 4?
Was a section of a tree.
Evidence item 5?
The jacket.
Evidence item 6?
The sports bra.
Evidence item 7?
A suspected blood stain.
Evidence item 8?
The cell phone.
And the cell phone belonging to who?
Laken Riley.
Did you assign these a number by any significance, or just the number in which you collected them, or?
Just the number in which I collected them. Sometimes I do it by what I first see. It just depends.
I'd like to start first with State's Exhibit 18. Tell the court, what are we looking at here?
So this is an overall photograph of the trail.
And in this picture, State's Exhibit 18, in what direction would be Laken Riley's body?
It would be towards the right side.
Okay, so I'm gonna, for the record, point my finger on the right side where my finger is?
Yes.
That would be in that direction?
Yes.
When you got there, did you observe, first of all, was Laken's body still there?
Yes, it was.
And did you observe any signs of medical intervention?
Yes.
What did you observe?
So with the AED pads were actually still on her body, and the AED was actually still audible.
What is an AED?
It is a device that first responders use to try to revive individuals.
State's Exhibit 22, what are we looking at there?
This is an overall showing the area closer to her body, which was near a tree that had already fallen down.
The tree that her body was near that had already fallen down, can you see that? Can you point to it for the record?
Yes.
The screens don't work like that. I think you have to point behind you.
Okay. Thank you.
She has a pointer.
Right here.
It's in the middle of photograph 22.
Yes.
Page 22.
Overall of the top half of her body.
Did you observe injuries to Laken Riley's body?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 35. Tell the court, first of all, where overall did you observe injuries?
So there were injuries to the left side of her head, and then there were also these linear marks on her torso.
And point to those for us. Is that, okay, thank you. Middle of States 35. States 38, what part of Laken Riley's body are we looking at here?
So this would be the lower, like just below her left hip. I had to kind of pull down her underwear. We always try to examine the decedent to see if there are any individual injuries under the clothing that we're missing.
And is that your glove then that we see in the photo?
Yes, it is.
All right, what injuries did you see when you pulled down her underwear?
There was another linear mark that looked kind of similar to the ones that were on her torso, but a little bit wider.
Okay, can you point that out for the court? Where is her underwear line in this photo then?
So her underwear is down here where my glove is because I'm having to pull it down to photograph that injury.
And in this injury that you photographed in States 38, is that in her pubic area?
Yes.
And you actually can see pubic hair in that area?
Correct.
Can you show that to the court, please? All right, thank you. Circled it below the wound for the record in the bottom part of States 38.
Yes.
States 39.
This is a photograph of the lower half. So I was trying to photograph the dirt stains that were on her leggings.
States 40.
Those are her shoes.
States 27.
This is a close-up of her face.
States 32.
This is a close-up of the injuries to the left side of her head.
Please point to the injury, one of the injuries to the left side of her head that you captured in this photo.
So on scene, really I can only observe two. I know that there were more, but I can only see two. So this one and then this larger one.
Did you make any observations about her hair?
Yeah, so her hair was very tangled, which made it difficult for me to locate the additional injuries.
And tangled with what?
So there were leaves, blood, dirt tangled in her hair.
And when you say tangled, do you mean attached? Do you mean, I don't mean to be picky, but what do you mean by tangled?
Yeah, so typically with the decedents, we try to do an examination for additional injuries, which would mean somewhat kind of looking through the hair. And in this case, it was extremely difficult for me to do that because her hair was so matted and clotted with blood.
For some reason we lost our, there it goes, okay. State's exhibit, and I want to ask you before we leave off the underwear, you said you did pull down the underwear.
Correct.
But this photo, State's exhibit 35, does that depict the way you found her underwear when you got there?
Yes.
Before you actually examined her for other injuries?
Correct.
Okay. And how would you describe her underwear in this photo and what you saw on scene?
So on scene, her leggings were down below her belly button, and the underwear was somewhat protruding out of the right front area.
Did you flip her?
Yes, we did.
State's exhibit 41, what did you observe when you flipped her?
When I flipped her over, I noticed that her leggings were exposing the upper area of her buttocks.
And can you show us where that's depicted in States 41?
Yes. In this area.
In the middle of the photograph?
Correct.
States 42, what does that depict?
So there's a little bit of a glare, but I was just trying to show that she had like some leaves on her back, which is, I guess, to be expected because she was laying in that area. And then also that her hair was matted.
I was trying to find a way to eliminate the glare because it might become a problem later. But I'm not sure how we would do that without turning out the lights. So,
Oh, if you hold it.
let's see.
We can dim some of the lights if that's something that's important.
Would we be able to dim a little bit just so the glare disappears?
I'll dim a little bit. It's a matter of turning off. See what you can do. Take those down, and we'll still have these up here.
That's too cumbersome. Much better. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. With the glare be gone, states 42, can you show us what part of Laken's body are we looking at here, and what are you photographing?
So we're looking at the back, but also we're looking at her head where her hair is, has leaves and sticks and dirt and blood in it.
Where's her neck in that photograph? Okay, and was she wearing a necklace?
Yeah, she was.
Okay, and can you point the necklace out on states 42 at the top of the picture? Okay, thank you. States 43.
This is a photograph of her left hand.
Was she wearing a watch?
She was.
And do you see that watch in this photograph?
Yes.
And can you please point to it? Thank you. States 44.
This is a photograph of her left hand also, just her fingernails.
States 45.
Photograph of her right hand.
States 46.
Another photograph of the right hand showing her fingernails.
Did you take measurements on scene?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to move away from the photographs of her body. But before I do that, I wanted to ask you about her shoes and any observations you may have made about her shoes. What type of shoes was she wearing?
She had Hoka brand running sneakers.
And did you observe those and look at those on scene?
Yes.
And what observations, if any, did you make about those shoes? And I'm showing you now states 40 for the record.
When I first looked at them, I noticed that they had reddish stains on them, and then they were also dirty, and then in the grooves, dirt was, I guess, caked, for lack of a better term, in those grooves.
And when you say reddish brown stains, what do you mean by that?
The suspected blood stains.
Did you take measurements at the scene?
Yes.
I'm gonna ask you, first starting with what you marked on your evidence marker as your evidence marker 1, and while we're talking about evidence marker 1, I'm gonna approach you with some of the evidence. Do you have gloves?
Yes, I do.
Would you glove up, please?
Yes.
And may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Special Agent Stewart, we're going to start with marker 1. You already told us it was an AirPod.
Yes.
Was it on the trail or off the trail?
It was off the trail.
Approximately how far off the running trail was your marker 1?
That was a little difficult to determine because it was hard to see where the trail actually ended and where the road started and the, I guess like the leaves, because the leaves were so thick in that area, but it wasn't far.
So when we see leaves in this photograph, states 55, could you also then point for the court where is the marker 1 on this chart?
Yes.
At the bottom of 143. Yes. And may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Handing you what's been marked for identification purposes, the state's exhibit 86. Do you recognize state's 86?
Yes.
What is it?
It is the AirPod.
And if you keep your voice up so Madam Court Reporter can hear you, and you can take it back. Okay. And is the AirPod in the same or substantially same condition as it was when you collected it on the 22nd day of February 2024?
Yes.
State would move to admit state's exhibit 86. Request permission to publish.
No objection.
86 is admitted.
May I publish?
Yes.
Okay. The distance, I'd like to ask you, from this trail, from where you marked 1, from your marker 1 to markers 2, 3, and 4, what is that distance?
64 feet, 11 inches.
And you measured that day?
Yes.
The distance from where you marked 2, 3, and 4 to where Laken Riley's body was found, what is that distance?
13 feet.
And the distance from marker 8, and what is marker 8 again?
The phone.
The distance from Laken Riley's body over here at 5 and 6 to the phone is what?
I believe it's 54.7 or 57.4.
Over 50 feet.
Yeah, it's over 50 feet.
Thank you. I want to go on to your evidence markers 2 and 3. What were those?
This was evidence markers 2 and 3 represent rocks that were bloodstained, and then evidence marker 4 represents the tree that had bloodstains.
All right, before we zoom in on 2, 3, and 4, what, if anything, did you notice about this area in your crime scene sketch that you labeled 2, 3, and 4?
So in this area near evidence markers 2, 3, and 4, there was also an area where I could actually see the ground, where the leaves were significantly disturbed to the point where I could physically see the ground.
And why is that significant to you?
Because the leaf coverage was pretty thick throughout the entire crime scene, and there were no other areas where I could actually see the ground.
So what conclusions did you draw based upon that?
Based on that, and then also like her hair being very matted, some type of significant disturbance happened in that area.
Did you observe blood in that area?
I did.
And where did you observe the blood in that area?
The blood was near evidence markers 2, 3, and 4, and there was no other blood in the crime scene other than obviously where her body was resting.
State's Exhibit 62, what is that?
That is a close-up photograph of the rock from evidence marker 2.
I'm just asking why you think it's going dark.
Out, yes. Does it sleep? Is that the sleep mode?
No, it should be. We don't have that problem. It must be a connection issue, but I'm not sure. If it gets worse, we can, a lot of times it's, we'll just keep watching and see. I don't know.
That is a rock. Is this one 2 or 3?
That one is evidence marker 2, and there were some hairs on that rock.
What type of hair?
It looked like it was brown, yeah, brown.
63
This is the rock from evidence marker 3.
and 64.
Another view of that rock, and you can see that there's hair on it.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Handing you 2 bags. One is State's Exhibit 87. The other one is State's Exhibit 88. I'm going to ask that you look inside both of those bags, and then I'm going to ask you some questions.
Should I pull the items out?
Yeah, if you can see it to yourself, yes. And just set them on top of your lap if you could. And just do them at the same time if you could do the other one, and then I'll ask you about both at the same time. So have you had an opportunity to look at the items inside State's Exhibit 87 and 88?
Yes.
Yes.
That one goes with that.
Yes. Do you recognize those items?
I do.
And what are 87 and 88?
They're the rocks I collected, or that were collected from the crime scene.
And are they both in the same or substantially same condition as they were on the day that you collected them, February 22nd of 2024?
Yes.
State would move to admit States 87 and 88, request permission to publish.
No objection. 87, 88 are removed.
doing one at a time. I am holding yes, that's the first one. Yep. So this is State's Exhibit 87 I'm about to publish to the court. Which number is this in your crime scene sketch?
Evidence marker 2.
That's marker 2. '88. What evidence marker is this one?
Evidence marker 3.
And approximately what was the distance between 2 and 3?
I feel like it was less than a foot. They were very close together, which is why they got measured together.
How long did you spend at this crime scene that day?
I started at 2 and I was finished at around 8:45 p.m. So a little over 6 hours.
How much walking around this area, not only the crime scene where her body was found, but other areas around there, did you do that day?
When we got done with labeling when I got done with labeling 1 through 7, we were still looking for her phone, which is evidence marker 8. So we were still canvassing the area for that and additional items. I also looked for additional bloodstains, so we went beyond just where her body was. I also had other agents search the area as well.
In and around the area of her body and in anywhere out in that forest where you walked that day, did you observe any other rocks that were similar to the ones that you collected at 2 or 3?
No.
Moving on to item 4, and if you need to change gloves, you can. State's Exhibit 66, what does that depict?
That is a photograph of the bloodstained tree.
And State's Exhibit 67, what does that depict?
The hairs that were attached to the tree.
It's difficult to see from my perspective, but can you point out the hairs that you saw in State 67? In the middle of the photograph. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Handing you now what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 89. Ask that you look at that, please. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 89?
I do.
What is it?
It is a section of that tree.
And is it in the same or substantially same condition as it was the day you collected it on February 22nd?
Yes.
So you move to admit State's Exhibit 89.
No objections.
Move.
And may I publish?
Yes.
Did you guys literally cut the tree?
Yes.
And why did you do that?
Because we wanted to make sure that we had the best evidence possible, and we felt that swabs were not going to be enough.
Evidence marker 5. Which is State 69 and is depicted in the photograph. What is that?
That's her jacket.
And State's Exhibit 70, what does that depict?
Her sports bra.
And had those items been cut prior to your arrival?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Handing you now what has been marked for identification purposes of State's Exhibits 90 and 91. I'll ask you to do the same thing, take a look at those items, and I'll ask you some questions. Can you start with 90? States 90.
This is her jacket, and actually there was also her shirt, but her clothing was so tangled that I didn't even realize the shirt was in there on scene.
And when you said tangled, what do you mean by that?
Well, the AED pads, it had been cut off by law enforcement. The AED pads were tangled in the clothing, and to avoid disturbing any trace evidence, we didn't open it completely.
All right, and are those items in the same or substantially same condition as they were when you collected them?
Yes.
State would move to admit States 89.
No objection.
89 was the street.
I apologize, 90. And may I publish 90 before moving on?
Yes.
Oh, there's part of her sports bra in there too. Yeah.
Let's do them one at a time. And 90, there are 3 items inside States 90, the bag that's marked States 90. Item number 1 I have in my hand inside of States 90 is in my right hand. What is this item?
That is the jacket.
Item 2 in my left hand inside of States 90, what is that?
The shirt.
Does this jacket have a zipper on it?
Yes, it does.
Item number 3 inside of States 90, what is this?
A section of the sports bra.
Moving on to States 91. Sorry, Mom, let me fix that. Or do you want to pick up there? It fell. Is 91 in the same or substantially same condition as it was the day you collected it?
Yes.
State would move to admit States 91, request permission to publish.
No objection.
91's admitted, we may go.
And what is 91?
A section of the sports bra.
So the other section of the sports bra.
Correct.
Thank you. That would bring us to your item number 7. Could you tell us about item 7?
So as I mentioned before, I was trying to look for additional evidence, and as I was walking the area looking for additional blood stains, I came across a dark colored stain that I suspected could be blood, so I marked it, I tested it, it ended up not testing for the presence of blood.
And that's item 73, or States Exhibit 73?
Yes.
Show you States 50. What are we looking at there?
So this is after I put out my evidence markers, and I'm just showing generally where the evidence markers are, and then this is the area of disturbed leaves.
Show me the area of disturbed leaves.
Where I could actually see the ground.
So would it be in States 50 between the tree that you cut and Laken Riley's body in that photograph?
Correct.
States Exhibit 54. Let me move some of these on. What does that depict? And wait a second, I think it'll clear on its own. There we go.
So in this photograph, I'm trying to show evidence marker number 1, which is the AirPod, and then there was also a path of disturbed leaves, not as disturbed as the area near 2, 3, and 4, that I used pin flags to kind of show the track of the disturbed leaves.
And that path of disturbed leaves, did it go from the trail to where?
It went from the trail to evidence markers 2, 3, and 4.
And that path would be how long in length?
It would have been a little less than 6411.
But would it be over 50 feet?
Yes.
When you say you saw disturbed leaves and you marked them with those orange flags, what did you physically see?
So when we were looking in the area, we were trying to look for additional evidence or just evidence in general. There like I said, the leaf coverage was thick, but you could see almost like a slight depression in that area that led from the trail to the area of evidence markers 2, 3, and 4. And it was a little challenging to photograph because of the shadows of the trees, so I used the pin flags to show the path.
And what are we looking at here in States 53?
So this is a photograph from evidence markers 2, 3, and 4 back out, showing the viewpoint from the opposite direction, going from 2, 3, and 4 back to the trail, and then the pin flags are there.
Can you point to the pin flags so we can see them?
Yes.
Okay. Up in the middle of the photograph. And when you walked that trail and you photographed and you looked at, did you look at the disturbed leaf path?
Yes.
Did you see any blood?
No, I did not.
States 50. I already showed you that one, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. I want to talk to you about your marker 8. What was marker 8?
The phone.
At what time or how long approximately did it take y'all to find the phone?
We found the phone maybe about an hour before we finished, so maybe like 5 hours.
By the time you found the phone, was it daylight still or dark?
It was still dark. Oh, well, sorry, it was dark.
So States Exhibit 80, what are we looking at there?
I can't see the evidence marker.
I'm sorry, hold on. I will try to move it and see if it resumes. There we go.
So this is a photograph of evidence marker 8, and then in the background, those are the other evidence markers.
Okay. And where, I know we see evidence marker 8, but can you see the actual cell phone in this photograph?
No.
Okay. But it was there where evidence marker 8 was?
Yes.
Okay. Did you take a close-up of this?
I did.
States 81, what does that depict?
The cell phone.
Can you please point to the cell phone in States 81? Okay, in the middle of the screen?
Yes.
Did you collect the cell phone?
Yes, we did.
Did you look at the cell phone?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you observe about the cell phone?
We noticed that there was an area of ridge detail on the phone.
When you say ridge detail, what do you mean by that?
Fingerprint ridge detail.
Were you able to see that without processing the phone at all?
Yes, a little bit, but I had to use oblique lighting, so that's where you take your flashlight and you kind of side light it to be able to view the latent prints better.
States 82, what does that depict?
That's a photograph of the phone and me using the flashlight to try to highlight it.
I'm gonna wait for this thing to stop moving. Okay, hold on a second. Maybe it doesn't like the photos on top of each other. Okay. Where on the phone was this image that you saw, or this item that you saw? See, I'm not even touching it now, and it's just moving.
It was at the bottom, close to the charging port area.
And do you see it depicted in States 82?
Yes.
Please point to it with your pointer. Were you able to determine, was there any reddish brown stains on the phone?
Yes.
Okay, what did you see?
It looked like there were reddish stains suspected to be blood.
Okay. Where on the phone?
Specifically the print.
States Exhibit 83, this may be really tough. I think I'm gonna have to come to you closer for it. So before I do that, did you end up taking a better photograph or more photographs of the latent print that you saw on the phone?
Yes.
States Exhibit 84, what is that?
That is a macro photo of the latent print, or in this case it would be a patent print because we could kind of see it, so, of the ridge detail.
Of the ridge detail.
Correct.
And when you say a macro photo, what do you mean by that?
So with photography, we have different lenses, and the macro lens specifically allows us to take close-up photographs of small items that are difficult to see. So it almost magnifies.
When did you take this photo?
On the scene after we collected the phone, immediately.
Was it before or after the phone was processed for prints?
This photograph, I believe this one is before. Yes, this one is before Detective Saunders used powder.
Okay, and did you see Detective Saunders process the phone?
I did.
And was that done in your presence?
Yes.
And then did he lift a latent lift card from that phone?
He did.
But this was your photograph prior to that?
Correct.
Now, for States 83, I am going to have to come closer to you because I am assuring that it's not going to show. May I approach?
Yes.
States 83, could you tell us what we're looking at? And then I'm just going to have to show counsel in the court.
This is a photograph of I was trying to show that the print was located in the area where you would swipe to unlock. And so the phone was actually still receiving notifications. And so it actually says swipe to unlock behind the print.
Where do you see the swipe to unlock on this photo? At the very bottom?
Yes.
I'm going to show defense counsel first, and then with the court's permission, may I show the court?
Yes.
And I'll approach the court. It's very difficult to see, but where my thumb is. So moving to the phone and your exhibit, marker 8. You can switch gloves if you need to. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to hand you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 92. Do you want me to take your old ones?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to ask that you look inside State's 92. Do you recognize what's inside State's 92?
Yes.
And what is it?
This is the cell phone that was at evidence marker 8.
And is it in the same or substantially same condition as it was when you collected it?
Yes.
State would move to admit State's 92.
No objection.
92 is admitted.
May I publish?
Yes.
So while I'm publishing the phone, can you put, using your finger where you saw the latent or patent ridge detail that we see in States 84?
It would have been right here.
And do you have an iPhone?
Yes, I do.
Right here where you put your finger, is that where you would hang up a call?
Yes.
Okay. On an iPhone?
Yes.
Just have a few more photos. 74. What is State 74?
So this is, I was trying to show how we got to the phone because the phone was not close to where her body was. So there's my evidence marker 1, marking the AirPod, and then I tried to use this tree stump as a marker to show the path of getting to the phone.
72.
So we talked earlier about the suspected stain.
Mm-hmm.
So in this photograph, I'm just trying to show some spatial relationship between 2, 3, and 4 in that stain.
And finally, 25.
This is the area where first responders initially said her body was, and they moved her out. And I was just trying to show that even with first responders in this area, and there were several of them moving her, that area is still not nearly as disturbed as the area near evidence marker 2, 3, and 4.
On the scene that day, were Laken Riley's hands bagged?
Yes, they were.
And when we say bagged, can you describe what actually happened?
What we do is we put handbags over the hands to prevent the loss of any potential trace evidence or DNA.
And was that done in your presence by Lieutenant Saunders?
Yes.
Did you, what time did you leave that day, you said?
8:45.
Okay. At some point, were you asked to assist the same agency in photographing a suspect named Jose Ibarra?
Yes.
Can you tell the court what day and time were you asked to do that, and where were you and what did you do?
That would have been the 23rd, and it was approximately 9 p.m. when I arrived at the police department.
Which police department?
The Athens-Clarke County Police Department.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
I am handing you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 93 through 115. I ask you to take a look at those photos, I'll ask you a series of questions. Do you recognize 93 through 115?
Yes.
What are they?
They're photographs of Mr. Ibarra.
Did those photographs fairly and accurately depict him as you saw him on February 23rd of 2024?
Yes.
State would move to admit 93 through 115.
No objection.
93 through 115 are admitted.
And may I request permission to publish?
May.
May I approach to retrieve?
Yes.
First of all, the person that you photographed that day, do you see him in the courtroom today?
I do.
Would you please point to him and describe an article of clothing that he's wearing for the record?
He's wearing a plaid shirt.
May the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant. When you photographed him that day, about how close did you get to him?
Pretty close because I had to take close-up photographs of injuries that were on his body.
Okay, and did you observe injuries on his body?
Yes.
And did you photograph those injuries?
I did.
And the time that you saw him, excuse me, that day, is he heavier or lighter than he is today as far as weight?
When I photographed him, he was heavier.
Publishing State's Exhibit 93, tell us what that depicts.
It's an overall photograph.
State's 94, and it might be really hard to see, but maybe not. What does that depict?
An overall photograph of his hands.
Okay. And did you observe or photograph any injuries to his hands?
I did.
In general, just show us where they were, and then I'll try to get the close-up photos. Okay, so you're on the left hand for the record?
Yes.
Okay. And you pointed to the wrist area?
Yes. There's one here.
Left pinky finger?
Yes.
Okay.
And I believe I photographed this one as well.
Right middle finger?
Yes.
So, State's 95. That could be hard to see. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, show us that injury. I'll show a few more of these. State's 100.
That's the wrist, left wrist.
State's 98.
Left pinky.
Whose scale is that?
Mine.
That's 96. State's 96.
Oh yeah, that would have been the, I think the left middle finger from the previous photo.
All right. State's 101.
So now we're on the right hand.
102.
There's a small, well, looks like a scratch.
Okay, in the middle of State's 102.
Yeah, on the middle finger.
State's 103.
Photographing the other side of the hand.
104.
Overall of the inner forearms, or yeah, forearms.
105.
A scratch on the forearm.
Can you show that to the court? Is that where your sticker is?
Yeah.
Your scale?
Yes.
Okay.
I try to put the scale close to the injury.
And is that his right side or his left side?
I believe that's the left side.
What I need
Yes, because it would be here.
All right. That's the left side?
Yes.
States 106.
It's an overall of his upper body.
States 107.
An overall of the back, and there's something here
Okay, when you say something, where are you pointing?
in the middle.
And did you observe an injury there?
Yes.
And did you photograph that?
Yes.
States 108. Is that where your scale is the injury that you observed?
Yes.
And the photograph? I might need to hand these back to you if you can't tell what they
Okay.
are. So you let me know, okay?
Okay.
States 114.
That's the left side of the neck.
And what did you observe to the left side of his neck?
A scratch.
All right, and is that, you just point to it for the record, above the necklace but below the ear?
Yes.
States 115.
That's the same injury with a scale.
And what side of your scale is that injury for the record? In the middle of the photograph to the right side of the scale?
Yes.
States 112.
That would be the right side of the front neck.
What did you observe there? Okay, you
Looked like it
pointed.
was a scratch.
Okay, in the middle of the photo? States 113.
Same scratch with a scale.
These are the ones I think I'm gonna have to come and hand back to you. May I
Okay.
approach the witness?
Yes.
So I'm not sure you'll be able to tell based on what I put them up, or the way that I put them up. It's probably easier to see. What part of the body is that?
This looks like it's the back. 109 looks like it's a close-up of the back,
Okay,
the mark that was on the back. And then 110 would be the right elbow area. And then 111 is a close-up of that.
and approach to retrieve.
Yes. I'll tell you what, going forward, both prosecution and defense can move around freely. You don't have to ask. I know you're trying, that's gonna be a hard habit to break.
It
isn't
will, but I will do my
So-
best, Your Honor.
That's okay.
You may
I was
have.
just trying to,
Thank you, yes, I understand. I will do my best, you may have to remind me, because I used to get yelled at if I did that. So then, just briefly, states 110. Can you show us the scratch on that?
Yes.
And then 111, is that the same area with the scale?
Yes.
Okay. May I have one moment, Your Honor, with counsel? Pass the witness.
Ms. Beck.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
When you arrived on the crime scene, the body had already been moved, is that right?
Correct.
And were you informed about how the body was moved?
Yes.
So you were aware that some policemen grabbed the ankles and some grabbed her arms to move her?
Correct.
At some point you photographed a metal washer on the trail. Did that turn out to have any evidentiary significance to the case?
I don't believe it did.
Okay. Let's see. It's hard for us to tell from the pictures, but when you photographed the rocks on scene, were they lying on top of the leaves or partially buried by the leaves?
They were lying on top of leaves. Like when I went to collect them, it wasn't like they left a depression. Like it wasn't like they had been sitting there for a while.
So they were on top of leaves and they were not in the dirt, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. And you said that you didn't see any other rocks in the area, but to be fair, you weren't out there with a rake looking for other rocks.
I did move So it's common for us when we have outdoor scenes in the woods, we do move the leaves to search for additional evidence, especially because it was windy and I knew that the leaves could have shifted. We did kind of like rake up, not using a rake, but literally on my hands and knees, crawling through the area, trying to find additional items.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good.
Okay. How wide of an area were you crawling through?
I searched the immediate area, and then there were also other agents that went further beyond the body, like into the woods in multiple directions.
Okay. And I'm not trying to be picky, but when you say immediate area, can you give us an estimate of feet?
So that would be the immediate area where my evidence markers are.
Okay.
That is what I consider my immediate area of the crime scene. And then I will assign other agents to go beyond that area.
Sure. Okay. Let's see. So you said that the markers 2, 3, and 4 were about 13 feet away from where the body was found. Is that
Correct.
right? Okay. And you said that the markers 4, 3, and 2 were about 64 feet from the path. Is that correct?
Yes, 6411 from evidence marker 1.
Okay.
Yes.
And for those of us that are not great with distances, is that like the length of this courtroom or a little bit more?
I'm not great with distances in that aspect either, so that's why I take my measurements.
All right, fair enough. Okay. So in States 45, we saw a picture close-up of Laken Riley's hand and her fingernails. Eventually, her fingernails were clipped. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you do the clipping yourself?
I did not. That's done at the autopsy.
Okay. So these photos would have been before her fingernails were clipped.
Correct.
Okay. You also briefly in your report mentioned that there was an irregular shaped blood stain on her left ankle. Do you remember noting that in your report?
Probably.
Okay. Did you see a corresponding wound on her left ankle?
No, but given the fact that she was moved by law enforcement, or things could have occurred during the incident.
Sure. So I guess what I'm asking is, did it look like the blood on her ankle was from contact with a bloody object rather than from a wound on her ankle?
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the latent print that you talked about with Ms. Ross. So you described that it was on the very bottom of the screen.
Correct.
And right where it would have said swipe up to unlock, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you own an iPhone.
Correct.
I own an iPhone. And you would agree with me that some iPhones have different screen sizes.
Yes.
But you would also agree with me that the marker to hang up a phone call is not at the very bottom of a screen.
It depends on your phone, but it doesn't vary that much. I mean, I have an iPhone 13 mini, which is probably the smallest iPhone you could have. And the screen size is not significantly different.
Sure. So just for demonstrative purposes, I'm going to show you my phone. It is also an iPhone. Let's see if I can get it angled the right way. Would you agree with me that oh goodness. Would you agree with me that that's a fairly accurate screenshot of where the call would be displayed on an iPhone?
Yes.
And you would agree with me that there's about an inch between the red hang up sign and the bottom of the screen?
Yes, but your iPhone has the button.
It does have the button, but from the bottom of the screen to the red button is about an inch.
I'd have to measure it.
It's not touching the bottom of the screen, right?
No.
Okay. You were present during the autopsy of Ms. Riley?
Correct.
And you spoke with the medical examiner regarding the state of the crime scene as she was doing the autopsy?
I did.
Did you discuss her conclusions with her at that time?
No.
You noted in your report that you searched Ms. Riley's shoes for a house key.
Yes, so at some point while we were working the crime scene, we were looking for her phone and potentially a house key. So some runners run with the house key in their shoe. They take the single key and they put it in their shoe.
And you didn't find the house key in her shoe?
I did not.
Did you ever find the house key in any of her clothing articles?
I did not.
Okay. I want to talk briefly about your photos of Mr. Ibarra. You took photos of his arms, his hands, his back, and his neck. Are those the areas that you photographed?
And his legs.
And his legs.
Yes.
We didn't go through any photos of his legs. Were there any injuries that you saw on his legs?
I did not observe any.
Now, when you took photos of Mr. Ibarra, you were also collecting evidence for a DNA test. Is that correct?
Yes.
And to do that, you collected some buccal swabs
Sergeant Saunders collected those.
in your presence?
Correct.
Okay. And buccal swabs would be on the insides of the cheeks, correct?
Yeah, it's actually buccal swabs.
Thank you. And then you also tried to collect DNA from the fingernails, or at least collect his fingernails for DNA analysis. Is that true?
Correct, yeah. He had really short fingernails, so there was no way that I was going to be able to clip them.
So they were too short to even clip a little bit off of.
Yes, it would have been extremely painful.
Okay. And so instead, you guys resorted to a backup plan, which is where you swabbed the kind of underneath his fingernails?
Yes.
And you did that. And were those sent to the lab for testing as well?
That I do not know.
Okay. The injuries that you, well, I guess who had custody of those swabs under his fingernails? Would that be Officer Saunders?
Yes.
Okay. The injuries that you observed on his back and his neck and his arms, some of those injuries were lighter and some were darker. Is that true?
Correct.
All right. Just one moment, Your Honor.